Welcome to Pineapple Pizza Podcast, where we serve up slices of mythology, cryptozoology, and urban legends. It's an interesting combination of flavors. Weird, but it works. Today's special is Cryptids of India. I'm your hostess, Emily, and with me are the wonderfully witty Ashley and Lindsay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, ladies, how you doing?
Little toasty,
we do.
But good.
Are you guys ready for some really flavorful stuff today? I think we already know from Ashley's episode last week that India is full of flavor.
We sure do.
Before I serve up tonight's meal, I just wanted to give a shout out for some of our regulars that are repeat customers. So we have some repeat customers from Brazil, South Africa, Ireland and the UK, France, Poland, the Netherlands, and Canada. And these are just a few of the countries that are represented by our many patrons. And it really makes us, I don't know about you guys. No, I do know about you guys. It makes us just so freaking happy. I know, it makes us happy. We're really excited to see all these countries from all over the world, people from all over the world enjoying our quirky little restaurant. I know when we started this, one of the big things that we really wanted to do was to be able to bring stories from countries and cultures all over the world together into one place. I know for us as Americans, we are bombarded by stories that are so America-centric. Mm-hmm. U.S.-centric even, not North America, but U.S.-centric. And it was really important for us to be able to have that chance to recognize other countries and cultures and kind of the cool stuff that happens all over the world that I don't think gets enough attention, at least not here. Mm-hmm. So I think we're excited to see that we have these customers coming back.
Yeah, it feels good. And it's like nice too, because I feel like we are all learning things about these other cultures. And when we get to share those stories and share like our feelings and our reactions to those things, it feels good to know that we are actually connecting with people who are from those cultures.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, it's always interesting to learn something new. And with each of the stories and the cryptids and things like that, there are still aspects of it that are very similar to what we experience or what we've heard. So it's kind of interesting to hear that regardless of where you are in the world, a lot of our legends and things like that are very similar.
Mm-hmm. We all have that shared past, and we're more alike than we think.
It makes you feel very connected to something, which I don't know about anybody else, but I really need to feel connected now more than ever because I feel isolated a lot. So it's really nice.
Mm-hmm. This really kind of pushed me to look into other things that I might not have ever looked into before. I might not have ever gone to look up cryptids in India in the past, but this pushed me to look into it and find out all like these really cool and crazy ideas that they have. And it's not just, and it's everybody. Mm-hmm. It's so creative. It's amazing. I love it. We thank you so much for stopping by each week. It means a lot to us.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. We love you so much, even though we've never met you.
It's true, but we know you're there. Mm-hmm. We know you stopped by for a slice. All right, so today I have 2 hearty courses for us, and I kind of wanted to preface, this is really true for basically everything that we do, but for my 2 stories in particular, both of them, the major writings come from people out of Europe writing about what they learned, quote, air quotes, learned about cryptids in India, or they translate writings from Hindi. I think it's important to remember that these are European views on things from India, and to understand that might not 100% represent the way people in India necessarily feel about this. I do try my best to pull in sources from every region that we research to try and make sure that I'm capturing those voices and that I'm not pulling only from English writers. So just a heads up. My 2 stories, they were definitely based primarily off of writers from Europe. All right, so for my 2 courses for today, the first one is a combo platter of Crocotta and Leucrocotta. Have either of you guys heard of these things before?
Oh, no.
That's going to be a big no.
I only heard of them through Supernatural. Thank you, Supernatural. Supernatural is like my source for everything.
Oh man, then once you start talking about it, I'm probably going to be annoyed that I didn't remember the name of it because I've watched so much Supernatural. It's like not even funny.
When I get to talking about the episode that it's in, you're going to be like, I remember that one because it was a good episode.
Yeah, there are, in my defense, I know there's over 200 of them because I watched the first 200 for sure.
All right, so my sources for this platter are a page on Leucrocotta from theoi.com, a translated chapter of Pliny the Elder's Natural History on the Perseus Digital Library at tufts.edu, a page on the, I did not translate that one, Venation's Ancient Animal Hunts, I don't know, on uchicago.edu. I had to look it up. I was like, I don't know what that is. It means ancient animal hunts. A cryptids fandom page on the Crocotta, and an unknownexplorers.com page on the same topic. A brynmawr.edu page about the making of Roman India, and finally a 2016 Life Science article about hyenas.
What? I'm excited already because I just heard hyenas and I know what those are.
I recognize that animal.
That is familiar.
I love their crazy laugh, and it also makes my blood run a little cold.
Every time I think of hyenas, I think of Lion King and that one hyena that's like the
Ed.
I still have at my parents' place an Ed toy from like McDonald's where you like push on his legs and he rocks back and forth like he's laughing.
That's awesome.
I'll have to see if I could find it and take a picture of it that we can share so we can share it with this episode.
That would be amazing.
Why is it that all the Eds are like the hook? Because Ed, and Eddie. It's the same way. Sorry, Eds of the world.
It also tracks for Edward Cullen because he did have kind of a vacant expression on his face during Twilight. So
never watched Twilight. I can't say I know that reference.
I do.
Would you agree with me that he had a bit of a like vacant stare most of the time?
I do, but also I was frequently distracted by his hair, which I'm not sure was ever washed. But hey, that's what was in.
So gross. Well, that's going to work out well for my second story, but we'll tie that in a little later. All right, shall we get into it?
Yeah,
yes,
let's
please.
do it.
All right. The earliest written description of the Crocotta comes from the Greek historian Ctesias and was written in the 4th century BCE, so that's 500s BCE for those of you who don't speak centuries.
Ta-da! Some people
He describes a fearsome animal called the Crocottas, which he says is vulgarly known as the, I even wrote it out for myself, Cynolycus. Apparently, I'm not very good at writing it out for myself, but I did write it out.
It doesn't matter. You got there.
Yeah, so it's the Cynolycus. He says that this animal, which imitates the human voice to lure its victims, is possessed of amazing bravery, strength, and speed, and no steel weapon can kill it.
Oh my god, I totally remember this from Supernatural now.
Yeah. You're going to love it when we get to that part. Then in 77, Common Era, so that's CE, AD for those of you who haven't caught up to the times, get with it. Pliny the Elder wrote a book in which he also described these creatures. And the book was part of a series that he wrote entitled Natural History, which is, all in Latin. So it isn't actually called Natural History. It's like Naturale History. I don't know.
I like how you
Latin.
put a twang on that. That's how
Story.
I want to hear all Latin now. Pleasius Historicus.
Oh my God. So this whole thing's written in Latin, but I don't read Latin very well anymore, so I read a translated version. So what I actually read was translated chapter 30 from book 8 of Natural History, written by Pliny the Elder, in case anybody forgot where we were at in the story. So that translation was provided by perseus.tufts.edu. And in this translation, he really simply describes the crocotta as being an animal found in Ethiopia that looks like it was, quote, produced by the union of the wolf and the dog, end quote.
Odd.
So mangy?
A wolf and a dog, like...
They're already related, guys. I don't know how you would know that by looking at it. Like, oh, that's a wolf-dog hybrid.
Yeah, it seems... Like, I thought it seemed really redundant because how many times have you seen a dog that looks like a wolf? You're like, did that person actually adopt a wolf?
I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought it was a weird description, but that's how he described it. He also said that the creature can break anything with its teeth and has the ability to instantly digest any food it eats, which made me think of, it instantly made me think of babies. You know how the second you put something in a baby, they're instantly shitting? Like...
You're talking about like
it comes in, it goes back out.
Polly Poopsie doll?
Yes.
I just picture it that it could break anything with its jaws, like a dire wolf with like the lockjaw mouth, and it's just like all metal teeth.
Oh, I'm over here like, let's make it bite a diamond.
Ashley's like, I'm gonna test this.
I want to know, damn it, for science.
Princess cut.
Okay, so we have a creature that's gonna try to break some diamonds with its teeth, and then it's instantly going to shit, because that's how this works.
It's gonna shit diamonds.
That's what I was just thinking. That's going to be the most expensive poop in history.
That would be amazing.
And you thought the coffee poop was expensive.
Coffee poop is something special, man. I've never tried it. I don't know that I ever will.
I'm too poor to try it, so.
Yeah.
That's true. It is expensive.
I don't have any money, so that's not going to happen.
Fancy people get up in the morning. Did you brew your poop this morning? No, sweetheart. I didn't have the butler do it.
Oh my god. People have butlers still.
Yeah, they do.
Ugh, that seems fake to me, but I believe you. Master Wayne, here's your poop. Literally the only butler I can think of.
Oh, God. Poor Alfred. So Pliny goes on to describe another Ethiopian animal named the Leucrocotta or Leucrotta, which he says is, quote, a wild beast of extraordinary swiftness, the size of the wild ass, with the legs of a stag, the neck, tail, and breast of a lion, the head of a badger, a cloven hoof, the mouth, this is gross, the mouth slit up as far as the ears, and one continuous bone instead of teeth. So it's like a plate all the way around. Mm-hmm. Kind of gross, huh?
I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
So for anybody who doesn't know off the top of their head what a cloven hoof is, it's just the hoof that's divided into two. So like a pig's hoof or a goat's hoof, or, you know, if you're really religious, the devil's hoof.
Devil, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Satan?
Satan? Is that you?
Don't switch the letters around, because then it's Santa, and I don't think he has a cloven hoof.
Maybe he does. He's always wearing boots.
No, but he has the Krampus, which doesn't that have cloven hoof?
I think
honestly,
it does.
I'm not sure, but probably, because let's be honest, it's Krampus. He kind of looks like the devil. So,
well, maybe I'll cover him for our Christmas cryptids episode.
Oh my god, please do, because I will probably never emotionally recover, but I will enjoy it.
There's some really good Christmas cryptids we'll have to get to. So when I was reading the description of the Leucrocotta and the smile, I instantly thought of the Kuchisaka Onna.
Yeah.
Like with that huge... Bleh. It was just such a gross picture, or it kind of reminded me of the devil of Lebinkir Lake with the really big mouth.
Oh, the Beetlejuice looking thing?
Mm-hmm, yep. So I'm just picturing just this nightmare of a creature. So that's the Leucrocotta.
At least it doesn't have a narwhal horn this time.
That's true. No, it just has lion boobs.
And a badger head.
Yeah. I don't know.
Badger, is it like an English badger that has like the black and the white? Because those are cute.
Is there more than one kind? I don't do mammals. I don't know.
There's more than one kind of badger. Is it a honey badger? Because then it's just going to rip your face off.
Oh. Oh my god, you would bring up honey badgers.
They don't give a fuck.
The honey badger, he don't care.
Then in the 2nd century Common Era, so that's the 100s, the 100s years, y'all. So 100 to 199 for anybody who doesn't speak centuries. Another Greek naturalist and historian, Aelian, relates what he's been told about Crocotta, which is like, it's the Crocotta. It's just another way of writing it because he's Greek, so he writes it a little differently. Everybody has to make this really freaking complicated for me to pronounce. Thank you, ancient Greeks.
Hey, they gave us a lot of cool shit.
They did. It's true.
Also, the other day I was explaining to my dad how the plural of octopus is octopuses because the root of the word octopus is actually in Greek. It would be octopi if it was Latin. It's octopuses. And he's like, no, that's not right. And then he Googled it. And he was so mad. Google's like, it's octopuses. I'm like, oh, told you.
Oh my god.
I know some stuff. Okay, so back to Aelian. When he's talking about the Crocotta, he says that these animals are said to lurk in wooded areas and listen to people speaking to each other, and especially to them calling each other by name. And then what it's going to do is it will mimic the sound of a human voice and call out the name that it's heard, which is creepy.
Damn.
As the person it's calling approaches, it'll go deeper and deeper into the woods and just slowly keep calling and luring the person until they're just so far away, and then it'll attack them.
I don't like
and
that.
Eat them. Apparently eat them and then instantly poop them out.
Diamond dust.
Although I suppose that's better than like the Yaramayahu where you would be puked back up.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't want to think about that. Ugh. That was like the worst one we've done so far. I did not like those.
Tasty dinner. Blech.
You have a cool name, but stop barfing people up. It's weird.
That's why nobody likes you.
So Aelian, he says it sounds a bit fantastical, but he wanted to relay it nonetheless. So he's saying this, I'm getting this story in and it sounds a little bit ridiculous, but I'm going to tell you about it just like I do. When I relate stuff, it sounds ridiculous, but it's also really cool. So I'm going to tell you about it. So far, every ancient author has only mentioned Ethiopia. And what does this have to do with India? I went down a freaking rabbit hole with this because there's a whole nother line of this going on in Ethiopia. And I had to pull myself back and be like, no, this is an episode about India. There were a few other ancient important guys, those bigwigs, who mentioned the creature in relation to India. And they said that the animals arrived from India for the games. So those are like gladiator-style games. They described an animal that looks like a dog-fox hybrid with the combined coloration of both a lioness and a tiger. Does this sound like anything we know right now?
I mean, some of the characteristics definitely match. There's no badger head, though.
Yeah.
The lion part makes sense. The dog part, that sounds like fox I could see maybe being in the mix and not having made it, but like the badger head kind of throwing me off a little bit.
I guess when we get a little bit later and we start talking about the real life inspiration for these, you'll be able to picture it with the badger head.
Okay.
It took me a while to be like, oh yeah, you mentioned hyenas at the top. It's probably supposed to be a hyena.
Yeah.
I was like, wait. I was like adding the different characteristics in my head. Like I was drawing it in my head. Like, okay, so there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's a bit weird when you're just reading the descriptions. You can't picture this animal. It sounds ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Not as ridiculous as, a beaver duck hybrid again, but still, it's up there.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. The platypus. These other historians that were talking about it in relation to India, they said that this also mimics human voices. So they actually saw this in the games.
Okay.
So they saw a live animal. It wasn't just something they were being told. They saw a live animal come to the games.
And what year was this again?
This was just multiple other historians in the centuries right around the same time.
Okay.
It was like 100 to 300s, so second to fourth century.
Okay.
Interestingly, several of these authors, including Elian, who is one of the ones I just mentioned, either directly call the animal a species of hyena, or they lump them in with descriptions of hyenas. So they're like, it's like a hyena, or they actually call it out as a hyena, but they also call it by this other name.
Okay.
So in the centuries that have elapsed since these first written accounts, the Crocotta has had a few modifications, unsurprisingly. According to cryptids.fandom.com webpage on the animal, it picked up an interesting special ability during the Middle Ages. And during that time, they were said to have striped eyes that were made of gems that people could put under their tongues to give them the special powers that basically turned a person into an oracle. So you have to pop the eyeballs out of this thing and then just like let that thing chill under your tongue.
Nope. I'm good.
No, please, no one ever do that. Don't do it. No.
It's just that goes back to that Beetlejuice thing with the eyeballs. Yep.
Oh, I'm no, good. I don't. Oh, no.
I'm good with not doing any sort of eye stuff. So
yeah, here's the thing.
I agree.
So I always had a problem with eye stuff, but I don't know if anyone's ever seen like the weird surrealist movie Un Chien Andalou, which translates to the Andalusian dog. If you have an eye thing, don't watch it because it's going to be 3,000 times worse afterward. Thanks, nope. Salvador Dali. Woo!
You have ruined my eyeballs forever.
There's the scene with an eyeball and a razor blade, and that's all I'm going to say.
No.
Just, nope, don't watch it. Nobody ever watch it. Don't watch it.
Eyeballs make me so uncomfortable. All right, let's move away from the discomfort. Let's talk a little bit more, less about eyeballs. Some more modern depictions of the animal show it as being kind of like a yellowish in color with either spots or stripes, both of which can be found on different species of hyena. And from what I could gather from the various sites, the Crocotta is a result of a lion and a hyena pairing. So they get together and they make a baby. One funky baby. And then if the Crocotta mates with a lion again, so like basically mating with one version of its parent, a Leucrocotta is produced, which as a biologist, I don't agree with this potential explanation for the Leucrocotta.
That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. The kind of pairing where an organism is crossed with another organism that has like the same genetic characteristics as one of its parents, like in this case, a lion, that's called a back cross. So you cross two different species and then you back cross it with one of its parents. And generally the result of something like that, the offspring of something like that, it's going to share more characteristics with that second parent. So the one that you're back crossing to. In this case, it should be more lion-like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I'm working with chestnuts. The American chestnut is crossed with the Chinese chestnut. To try and get a more American-like chestnut, they back cross it with another American to make it more American-like. So it shouldn't, that doesn't make this crazy animal with like a plate and a smile that's like,
just like mathematically, that's not how it works, guys.
Yeah. No. So regardless, the Crocotta has become a creature that now is considered in some instances to have the ability to switch genders as needed. Occasionally, it is known to shapeshift, and sometimes they even appear human, and they can now be killed by weapons. But to be fair, Pliny and I think it was Theseus way back who said they can't be killed by steel weapons. They didn't have guns, so they can't really judge. I thought it was interesting that they could switch genders. And now some of this, it's hard to say because Ethiopia and India both share stories of the Crocotta and the Leucrocotta. There's some overlap of what's coming from Ethiopia and what's coming from India. It's hard to pull them apart. Either way, this thing likes to eat animals, like dogs and chattel, but it really likes to eat people. It's going to be happy with the dog. It's like, hey, that's cool. I don't care. But it wants a person. There are some purported sightings of the animals in the southern U.S., which I thought was really interesting, in areas such as Texas, but I couldn't find any like direct accounts. I just only found rumors of them being in Texas and southern United States.
I like that for some reason.
You guys wouldn't have known that because
it's just funny. Don't
and
they
we
have
have
like
invasive everything else. Why not?
Aren't there like supposed to be chupacabras on like the border and stuff too in Texas?
Mm-hmm.
They're just chilling out together.
And that could be some of the confusion. Is it a chupacabra? Is it a Leucrocotta? Is it a crocotta? We don't know. It's something with an
Is it an abracadabra? It's a mix of two.
It's an I don't know.
That's weird looking and it's making me scared. Shoot it.
Yeah.
Either way, watch your small animals, because they're gonna probably be dinner.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I found really interesting while researching this creature was that, from what I could tell, it's only reported in India and Ethiopia, aside from that rumor from the U.S. It's reported in these two countries that are really nowhere near each other in modern geography.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. But the original accounts come from ancient historians, and that would have a lot to do with relations between Rome and India. So I dug a little bit deeper into that. And as I had kind of suspected, and I bet you suspect too, Rome kind of had two perspectives of India. They had like the physical location and then the cultural representation, which likely had a much bigger footprint than the country itself actually did, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So the Roman idea of India was bigger than the country itself. So it's possible that the creatures were reported in countries such as Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Yemen, but that the people in those countries were kind of lumped in with either India or Ethiopia cultures, Ethiopian cultures by the ancients. So I think that's most likely what happened, and why we see that kind of, now we see it as two distinct things, but back then they would have lumped it all together, especially because we know how conquering countries do. They go in and they're like, oh, you're not like a unique individual culture. We're just going to call you all barbarians. When it comes to pop culture, these cryptids pop up quite frequently as the name of movies or bands. Though, from what I could tell, the names don't necessarily relate to the cryptid in any way. Apparently, the creators just really like the name.
Well, that's how band names usually seem to work in my experience. Mm-hmm. Like, I just think this sounds metal, so this is what I'm going to call my band.
And I'm pretty sure it was like a hardcore band that has the name Leucrocotta.
Yep. That tracks.
And I spent there's a short film. It's a 30-minute film on Hulu or Amazon, I can't remember, called Crocotta. And I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to go watch this and see some new movie about the Crocotta. No, it's like some military film. Had nothing to do with it. I was disappointed. I made it halfway in and I'm going, when are they going to get to the Crocotta? So, yeah, don't waste your time on that one if you're interested in the creatures. You're not going to find it there. But my personal favorite pop culture reference was season 3, episode 14 of Supernatural. And in this episode, our good old boys, Sam and Dean, they traveled to Milan, Ohio, where people have reported receiving calls from their deceased loved ones.
Yep.
And occasionally even seeing them in reflective surfaces on occasion. So what happens is that the lost loved ones will call over and over until the receiver takes their own life to join the voice at the other end of the phone. And initially, the guys think that it's a case of the Edison spirit phone. Especially, I think they receive a call from their dad. So that really gets them thinking, this has to be the Edison spirit phone. And the idea of hearing from the father that they really idolized nearly drives Dean to madness, until Sam learns from one of the intended victims that the spirits had been uttering a very specific phrase, "Come to me."
Mm.
And that's when he realizes it's a Crocotta who had been working for the phone company.
Yep.
It's like the BTK of cryptids.
That's gross. I like it.
Not really, but that's where my head went.
It kind of fits, though. If you think about the way that the Crocotta from India and Ethiopian lore, they kind of lure you out, that come to me. They keep calling to you to follow them out or to your doom. It fits. So the version in the show was really reminiscent of their ideas of Leviathan, but more soul sucky instead of actual people eaty. So if you watch this episode, they don't really look like the way Crocotta are described from ancient myths and stuff. The obvious natural explanation for a Crocotta is the hyena. I didn't transition that very well.
Spoiler alert, it's a hyena.
Okay, so in the show, that like the Crocotta kind of like sucks the soul out of a person instead of eating it. And that's the supernatural version. Now I'm going to transition, segue into what the natural explanation for Crocotta is, and that's the hyena. And there's obviously a lot of evidence that the description of the Crocotta actually arose from sightings of hyenas and encounters with hyenas. And it's really actually so strong that the scientific name of the spotted hyena, also known as the laughing hyena, the one that people think sounds like people, is Crocotta crocotta.
Ah.
That's the scientific name. Both striped and spotted hyenas range from northwestern Africa to India, which would fit the various kind of descriptions of both spotted and striped Crocotta, though the spotted hyena is the only one said to mimic human laughter or voices. They're also really fast, too. I was reading about hyenas. The spotted hyena, the one that mimics human voice, can run up to 37 miles per hour or 60 kilometers per hour, which I can imagine to people in ancient Greece and Rome would seem like it was incredibly swift. And that was one of the characteristics, is that these things are really fast, especially when like your idea of the maximum amount of horsepower is like 4. So based on this information, I think it's probably highly reasonable to suspect that the cryptid arose from frightening encounters with hyenas. I think that makes sense. So the cryptid, the Crocotta, Leucrocotta, likely hyenas. But I had just one little fun fact about hyenas before we go check on our second course. Although they appear dog-like, they're actually much more closely related to cats.
What?
Yeah, they're from like the same, it's not the same genus, it's like the same order, felines. Yep,
Yeah.
they're felines.
That's cool.
I thought
I didn't just do that kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species thing.
That's okay, I'm a biologist and I don't have them all memorized. You probably did better than I do.
I was like, wait, which fucking one is that again? Run the list.
I thought that was really interesting. I think skunks are there too. I think skunks are actually more closely related to cats.
Well,
They're little feline.
in the sense that skunks and cats are both assholes, I totally agree.
And skunks smell like assholes, so.
All right, so we will give you a moment to let that lovely little taste settle. Don't stick anything under your tongue, please.
Yeah.
While we go check on the final course for the night.
If anyone's out there, blink twice and keep listening. Blink twice and keep listening.
Hi Teamsters, I'm Carrie Ann.
And I'm Allison, and this is Podcast Without an Audience.
Where two friends pick two topics and find intersectionality.
We are a psychology and history podcast.
We say psychology. My background is actually in social work, so I'll be covering topics in psychology, social work, and sociology.
And by history, I mean anything from people, places, and things to historical tragedies and events. Basically, how we're all connected.
It's like a book club without the books. Each Thursday, we find intersectionality between our topics.
Or not. You can find us on social media at Pod Without an Odd. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, or join us on the web at podcastwithoutanaudience.com.
We're an independent podcast, so to support us, you can join us on Patreon, where you can get behind-the-scenes content and our pasta recipe.
Join us in discovering what connects us all. And if you support us, blink twice.
And if you're out there, keep listening.
All right. I hope you saved room for our final course of the night. Be careful, though, because this meal bites back.
Uh-oh. Foreshadowing.
Ooh. Ooh. That was terrible.
We went different ways. We went very different ways musically. I was like, dun, dun, dun.
And I was like, Star Trek, Star Wars. Ooh. The theremin.
Oh my God, don't theremin me. Sheldon Cooper, get out of here.
I will be serving up a hearty helping of the Indian vampire known as the Vetala, Vetal, or Baital. And this was actually a recommendation from Lindsay.
Yay!
I don't know if you remember recommending this. You sent it to me a while ago.
I vaguely remember. I was like, this sounds vaguely familiar.
All right. So I have quite a few sources for this one also. My sources were a scanned version of the 1870 book, Vikram and the Vampire, provided by Baroniana.org. There we go. A 2017 Live History India article entitled Vikram and Vetala, The Tales of a Spirit. A 2020 Atlas Obscura article by Emma Gross. I'm not going to say the title of it because it kind of gives away part of my story.
Fair enough.
I have a couple of those. A 2009 Vampires.com page about the Vetala. A 2018 The Hindu article by Aditi Sen and Alak Sharma. And I'm not going to give the name for that one either. Hopefully I did not butcher those names. I apologize if I did. 2 Mysterious Universe articles and the Wikipedia page on Vetala. So are you ready for this?
Yes.
The story of these beings goes back to at least the 3rd century CE. So that's 200s. Again, for those of you who don't speak century, practice, people. Come on. Practice. It's not that hard. Just subtract 1. Come on, let's go. Anyway, though those original writings have been lost to time, probably due in part to the many languages that have been spoken throughout the region over the centuries. The earliest written records that still survives dates to an 11th century collection of the stories called Baital Pachisi, which were translated during the 19th century by Englishman Sir Richard Burton. Oh, that's what that webpage was, Burtonian.org. Okay, I get it now.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a real-time wake-up moment.
It's like I can't figure out how to pronounce this damn webpage. Such a dumbass. Oh God. I swear to God I'm not this stupid all the time. So I read his translated version of the story. So this is an Englishman. Remember how I talked at the beginning how a lot of these were coming from Italians, Grecians, Englishmen. So he wrote a translated version of this story. Take that as you will, because he openly said that he embellished parts of it. So I actually read 2 versions. I read his version and another translated version. Let me tell you, the other translated version was not nearly as colorful as his. So I read his translated version of the story, which was scanned onto Burtoniana.org.
Callback.
To find his early description of what a Vetala looks and acts like. So I focused primarily on the introduction and the final chapter, but kind of perused through the other stories, which were extremely repetitive. So I did not read the whole thing through. It was several hundred pages of basically just the same exact thing happening over and over again. And like Ashley doing, I think, Dobrania, she's no, it's the same thing. We're just breezing by that. So in this very first translation to English, the creature is described as a spirit that haunts cemeteries and places where bodies were burned, and it has the ability to possess the bodies of the dead.
Sick. I love it.
It's pretty gross, isn't it?
I love it already.
No, I mean, I think it can possess the bodies of the living, but it just particularly likes the bodies of the dead for some reason. Maybe it just really likes to freak people out.
It's probably easier to overtake them if there's nothing going on upstairs.
Maybe. Though there are plenty of people that are alive that there's nothing going on. I mean, I can't figure out Burtoniana.org. And it's all about Burton.
Don't feel bad.
So this story is about King Vikram, who went to capture a Vetala and bring it back to an ascetic. That's the ones that they live that really, like, they wear the hair shirts and they live as hermits, the religious hermits. Did I say it right, Ashley, or is it ascetic?
I think that I'm pretty sure that's right. I mean, it's been a while for me, but that's definitely the thing that you're describing is what I was thinking of when you said it.
Yeah. It's a religious hermit.
Everyone loves a hair shirt, Lindsay. Everyone.
So scratchy.
Don't forget to shampoo your hair shirt. Condition.
It's gonna be like that episode you did about the wigs and like how tall they got and all the wig snatching with the lice and shit.
Oh no. Now my head's gonna itch. Oh no.
So he went to capture the Vetala for this ascetic, whatever, who had promised to use his magic around the king. I guess I don't really know why that's something special to use your magic around the king. I didn't see in both of my readings, I didn't see any kind of like outright promise of any benefit to the king, but the king's like, sweet.
He probably just wanted to be entertained.
I imagine there had to be something he was going to gain from that. Otherwise, why would you go mess with this thing?
Maybe he had a dead loved one where he's like, show me a trick.
Ew. Ew. No. Ew, I went the wrong way with it. No, necrophilia is bad.
Bring back my sister.
King Vikram secretly wanted to become a skinwalker.
Gross. Don't do it.
It's not incest if she's already dead. No.
Barf. Oh, God. You can't get that out of your mouth.
Nope.
All right. Okay. So when Vikram first came upon the Vetala, what he saw was a corpse suspended upside down by a rope from a tree hanging from a branch. But it wasn't just any old corpse that he saw. According to Burton, it had greenish-brown eyes that were wide open and basically dead. There was like no life, no light behind those eyes. So they're wide open, and its skeletal body was brown all over, so it kind of looked like jerky. It had brown hair, brown skin, and he described it as an over-dried coconut. It's holding onto the tree by its toes like, quote, a flying fox, which I was like, what the fuck is a flying fox? But apparently that's actually how bats were described in India at the time.
Oh, okay.
I had to look that one up. I was like, what the hell is this?
I was like, bats? You mean bats?
Yep, that's a flying fox is a bat.
Well, I
could see it if you look at the face.
Bats are kind of like winged puppies, so it's like I could kind of imagine. I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think bats are kind of cute.
I do too.
Their little bitty faces.
You're like, ooh, I am the knight.
With the little hands up here. Fear me. I'm going to eat your mosquitoes. So the thing that King Vikram sees, it's skinny, its muscles are pulled really taut across its bones, it's hanging upside down like a bat. And its skin, when he touched it, it was clammy and ice cold, so it appeared to contain no blood. It was just like, it was dead. The only thing that gave any possible indication of life was a goat-like tail, which had a switching motion, so like it's swishing back and forth. Which I want to know why, if it's inhabiting the body of a dead person, does it suddenly have a goat-like tail? Where did this thing come from? I'm pretty sure most people don't have goat-like tails.
Guys, I have a secret I've been meaning. Just kidding, I do not have a freaking tail, I promise.
Is it like that, oh God, what's that Jack Black movie where he...
Shallow Hal.
Yes, with the one dude that has the tail.
Yeah, he has a vestigial tail. Yeah, that's horrifying. I'm gonna sleep thinking about that later. Woo!
Maybe that's what it was. Let's just go with that.
Goat-like vestigial tail.
Yes.
Sure. All right. And it's wagging back and forth like a Jack Russell little nub.
Oh.
I'm excited to see you.
Oh, there's somebody alive.
I'm going to play dead, but I'm so excited.
Reasonably assuming that the creature was dead, Vikram cut it down. But when it hit the ground, the thing started to make this really wretched wailing sound.
No.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so it's screaming and crying and wailing. And Vikram's like, identify yourself! Because that works when something's screaming and wailing, is to yell in its face, right? But when he did that, it just busted out laughing and flew away to return to its upside down perch. It's like, yeah, fucking right, bye. he kept trying to cut this thing down, and then it would go back up and over repeated until he finally manages to capture it, and then he tells it that he's taking it back to the ascetic. The Vetala responded that it would go with the king, but there were some conditions to the agreement, which honestly just kind of confused the heck out of me when I read these conditions. Because from what I could understand, the idea was that the Vetala would ask the king a riddle, and if the king knew the answer, then the Vetala would go free, right? Mm-hmm. But if he didn't know the answer, then the Vetala would go with him to the aesthetic, whatever. So that it was really weird. Like, if you don't, why wouldn't you just fake it that you don't know the answer so that's going to come with you? Like, it was weird, the whole riddle thing. I saw on a few sites that if the king lied about if he pretended that he didn't know something, then he'd like explode into a million pieces. But I didn't see that in either of the translated versions that I read. So I don't know where that came from. So either way, this whole riddle thing is kind of weird to me.
I think someone was like, hey, that's a plot hole. How can we fix that? If you lie, you blow up.
Yeah, weird. It's a little weird. But that's kind of what I gathered, was that if he gets it wrong, then the Vetala is going to go with him. And that's kind of what I gathered from what followed. And this is where the story really became very repetitive, because it's 24 chapters of the Vetala asking a riddle. It's like this whole chapter long riddle. The Vetala is just talking the whole time, and Vikram's saying not a freaking word until like the last 2 paragraphs of any chapter. And then the king knew the answer to all these riddles. I kind of gathered that the king was he almost seemed like he was compelled to give the answer. So maybe that's how it worked. Like, you couldn't lie. You're compelled to tell the truth. I'm not sure. But each time the Vetala would go back and hang itself upside down from the tree again. And then the king would be like, chop, chop, bring it down, wash, rinse, repeat kind of thing. It wasn't until the last riddle that the king became stumped. In this riddle, a king and his son rescue and marry a princess and her mother, the queen. So the prince marries the queen and the king marries the princess. The question that King Vikram could not answer was, what would be the relationship between the children of these two unions? Kind of a weird one. It's a tough one to describe. It takes a little bit of thinking. Every website was like, oh, it's such an incestuous question. So he's not asking if they're getting together. That's not incestuous. Do you know what incest means? Apparently not. Mm-hmm. It's not saying those little babies get together. But anyway, the king couldn't answer it. So then the Vetala agreed to go with him to the ascetic, whatever. I don't know that word. But first warned him that the holy man would turn on the king and kill him. So the Vetala is kind of warning him, beware. So he says, I'm going to go with you. But as soon as he tells the king that this guy's going to turn on you, he's like, peace. He leaves the corpse and went his own way. And that's pretty much the original depiction of the creature. There was a little more to the story, but it's not really important to what we're talking about here as to what the Vetala is. That's what I read as Sir Richard Burton's translation and depiction of this character. One thing that was alluded to in what I read but was not said outright from what I saw was that the Vetala are almost kind of like omniscient creatures, that they have the ability to see the past, present, and future. So they're almost like all-knowing in a sense. Mm-hmm. Based on how this thing seems to know everything that's going on around it and everything that has been and will yet come. That's what I picked up on, is that these are all-knowing beings. The ancient version of the being, though considered to be a demon and most certainly something dangerous, it talks about wanting to inhabit Vikram's corpse. So it's probably something dangerous. It seems to be kind of more of a trickster than a malevolent being per se.
Okay.
It was actually Burton who chose to call the creature a vampire, which I thought was interesting, rather than a spirit or demon. And that kind of his choice to call it a vampire would forever change how India itself would perceive this creature.
Interesting.
It's like some British guy in the 1800s completely changes how India views one of its own creations. Following the admittedly far from literal translation by Burton, stories and depictions of the Vetala changed quite a bit, and it became a much more fearsome creature. And this is largely thanks to Bram Stoker.
Yeah.
And this is why I didn't want to give away some of my titles. According to Atlas Obscura, Stoker kind of fanboyed over Burton, and he was super into his writings about India and the occult. So there is certainly a faction of people who believe that these stories inspired characteristics of Stoker's Dracula, at least in some part. Mm-hmm. Although there are certain aspects of the character of Dracula, such as his climbing skills and his ability to transform into a bat, and his powers of enchantment and wisdom that span centuries, I think that's really kind of where the similarities end. Because Bram's, if you take a look at Dracula, the way those vampires work, they have to totally drain the blood, suck the life out of a creature or a person, and then they inhabit them as a spirit. But this is like, the Vetala are different. They're not going in to drain your life blood or anything. At that time, prior to Bram Stoker taking this and making it kind of Dracula version, Vetala didn't bite people. And it definitely didn't cause them to become vampires. It didn't transform people into vampires at all. And when they fed, they would just kind of like occupy a body until they would occupy a body and turn it into this bloodless husk, and then they'd peace out. But they didn't stay in that body forever. They'd use up what they needed to, and then they'd go. If they occupied a live person or a recently deceased person. They definitely didn't occupy the same body for centuries. And what bodies they did inhabit didn't retain the memories of the dead, of the deceased, like vampires often do. They're supposed to retain like the memories of life. They literally just kind of like move into this vacant property and take it over. Modern depictions of the demons see them as like seriously dark and dangerous characters. So it's really different than Vikram and the Vetala. As with many of the cryptids we discuss on the show, the descriptions vary, but for something that's been around for nearly 2,000 years, it's really not that surprising that it's kind of all over the place. Modern Vetala are hostile spirits that, according to occultworld.com, are created whenever a deceased child is buried without the proper funeral rites, which is sad. They're found in the woods, cemeteries, living in stones, and basically anywhere isolated and creepy. I don't know why living in a stone.
Yeah, how do you live in a stone?
I don't know, but apparently they do it.
Doesn't sound fun.
Oh, no. That's stone cold boredom right there.
I see what you did there.
Ashley did not appreciate that one. It's just like, that's so dumb. Okay. They can and will possess the living as well as the dead, and this is in the modern version. And when they possess someone, they will cause some pretty nightmarish transformations to occur to the body. So skin will turn green, white, or brown, and the face might kind of start to look bat-like. The fingernails will grow grotesquely long, and they become poisonous. And this is the grossest part of all. I hate this part. I did not like reading it. The hands and the feet will be twisted backwards.
No!
No.
Isn't that gross?
No, don't do that. Come on.
Yep. Right? Like, why did you do that? Came across that in my reading. I was like, nope, can't do it. This happens a lot in India. A lot of their cryptids had feet that were turned backwards.
I wonder why that is.
No, I have no idea. I'd have to look into it. I really don't know. What do you guys think the favorite victim of a Vetala would be? Given all you know about cryptids, what do you think the favorite victims are going to be?
Is it women and children?
Ding, 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 ding. 20 points to Gryffindor.
You're such a nerd.
Of course it's ladies and kids. Why wouldn't it be?
Can't be picking on those men. Nope.
Well, apparently they do enjoy a delicious drunkard from time to time. They're like, hey, those drunks, easy pickings, right? One source said that they will drain a person of their blood, but they also enjoy... You okay? It's like Kappa. They also enjoy consuming intestines and excrement. I can't with the poop. Why do you eat poop? Why? That was another thing, like the backwards hands and feet and then eating poop. I can't do it. Everybody's like, it's an evil thing. It must eat poop. Is that could be like the way to tell something is evil is when it eats poop. Mysterious Universe says that these beings will lurk in graveyards and wait until just after dark. Then they'll basically tunnel down to a fresh body so that they can have the freshest meal, as we know that they like to drain the body. Occult World, on the other hand, says that the Vetala will drop an enchanted rope down a chimney, like a creepy-ass Santa, and then sneak into the home while people are sleeping, which is just terrifying. That's almost vampire-like. Run-ins with these demons are said to lead to severe illness, miscarriages, and even madness. But this doesn't deter sorcerers who want to enslave them to gain access to their powers of sight into the past, present, and future.
What? It just seems like something you wouldn't want to have around, especially if it's just like, let me eat your shit. It's like, oh, okay.
Do you need a plate or can I just drop it in the corner? Ew.
The privy's back there. We'll wait here. See you in 10.
Tell me, am I ever going to be rich?
Please brush your teeth before you come back.
Your breath smells like shit. Ew. So nasty. Ugh. People can protect themselves against Vetala through prayers, chanting, gift giving, or by reinterring with the proper burial rites the body of the child whose burial led to the manifestation.
Manifestation?
Thank you. Of the demon in the first place. I didn't find any associations of these creatures with any known animals. It doesn't appear that they were ever even remotely inspired by encounters with an actual animal that ever morphed into a cryptid. Like, we so often see that cryptids are inspired by real animals, but this one really doesn't. They have, however, inspired a ton of pop culture. There's a lot of pop culture reference to these. There are loads of graphic novels and comics in India that involve or kind of revolve around the Dracula version of the Vetala. And it looks like a Dracula Vetala hybrid from what I could tell from the pictures and descriptions. I've not read them, so this is just kind of my perspective on what I saw based on these images online. But it's, from what I understand, it's like Vetala, but looks like a Drac. I don't know. There is also a Disney Channel India show called Vicky and Vetal from the early 2000s. I thought this was weird. In it, a 6th grade boy, Vicky, and a 300-year-old ghost, Vetal, somehow become tied to each other. Apparently it was super popular. Vicky can see Vetal, but I don't think that anyone else could see him. And in this version, Vetal was a milk drinking spirit. He was not a blood drinker. Oh. So thanks, Disney. Disney cleaned it up.
He's all about that calcium.
People really liked it. When I was reading about this online, there were all kinds of forums and stuff talking about how much they loved Vicky and Vetala. It was super popular. Vetala have also popped up in TV shows, including Jekyll and Hyde, Sleepy Hollow, and my personal fave, Supernatural. Jekyll and Hyde and Sleepy Hollow's depictions kind of take some artistic liberties. Their Vetala do resemble the actual beings to some degree, though. Like, if you look at them and kind of like the way they behave and their physical manifestation, they look like and behave like the Vetala, but Hollywoodized. However, Supernatural, sadly, really missed the mark in this one. They were really only Vetala in name. The characters don't resemble the ancient demon of India at all. Do you remember the episode, Ashley, where the one girl's dad gets kidnapped and he's hunting the two, like, prostitute Vetala at a truck stop?
No, that one's not standing out, but there are so many episodes.
Yeah. They were almost more like snake-like. I think they had a venom almost to them.
Okay. Yeah. I think I do remember that now that you said that they were snake-like.
Yeah. So they really weren't like the Vetala described from anything that I read, at least. I didn't think they sounded like Vetala and they didn't behave like Vetala, but that's what Supernatural called them. It seems like the fascination and belief in these beings has not waned over the past 2 millennia at all. And if anything, their popularity might be increasing, which I think is pretty cool. So, I did kind of a vampire character last month with the Yaramayahu, and this is a really different take on vampires in India. Mm-hmm. We know that once we get to doing some stuff out of Europe, if I do any vampires there, they're really different. I think it's pretty cool to see all these different interpretations of vampires all over the world. Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think of the Vetala?
I wish it wouldn't eat so much poop, because I don't like that. I don't like the backwards hands and feet either. Why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense. But I guess if it wants to inhabit people that are already dead, like, cool, have at it.
Yeah.
Like, just don't try to inhabit me, please. I'd like my hands and feet pointed the correct direction. Thanks.
Yep. Agreed.
Somebody wants to make some real money in real estate, and they put out all the bodies with for sale signs for the Vetala, like, vacant lot. Here's the newest model. That's not twisted, Emily. Shut up. What are you talking about?
I mean, it's less twisted than those people's limbs are about to be.
I see what you did there. That was good.
Gross. I hate these.
So did you ladies have anything nice to talk about this time? Anything happy? Any good news? Anything weird?
I've got a weird thing, but I don't know that anyone's going to want to hear. hear about
Now I want to hear it.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Tell me.
I'll tell you. So when I was listening to, I think it was the actual episode, right? Because you sent the bloopers like later. So when I was listening through the audio from the Australian episode, because we always listen through to make sure everything sounds good and that we're all on the same page, because we're a team.
Yeah, we are.
We sure are. So I made a huge mistake. And I was listening to this episode and I was like, it's going to be totally fine if I just keep drinking my Red Bull. Like, that's not a problem. I was wrong about that because Lindsay, and it's okay to say because it's a callback because this is going to come out way later. So Lindsay makes a Helga Pataki joke. And see, the thing is, I forgot about it. Like, we record these and then, like, I forget what the exact content is of the episode. Like, obviously I remembered the story, but you don't remember all the little jokes that come out while you're doing it. And so I took a drink at the wrong time. So, like, Olin, my dog, does not like this story, apparently, because she...
It's not about me.
Stop barking.
Like a story.
Oh my god. Please shut up. First of all, I tried not to laugh because I had liquid in my mouth. So I clenched down. You know what I mean? Like, I clenched down hard and I tried not to laugh, but I also couldn't swallow because I knew that I was going to choke on it. So I tried to hold it in, but then, like, a couple seconds after she says the thing about Helga Pataki, I'm like, oh, maybe they'll just call it a football head because who doesn't love Hey Arnold? And like, here's the thing, that was too much, and I couldn't hold it anymore. So two things happened simultaneously. The first is that some of it shot out of my nose, which was
Oh, that had to burn.
It was probably one of the top, like, most painful things that's ever happened because my nostrils were basically on fire. But here's the thing. I made another bad decision because when I felt that starting to happen, I also tried to swallow at the same time.
Oh, no.
I was like, it can't shoot out of my nose if I swallow it.
Oh, no.
And the end result... The end result is that I ended up choking for like a really long time after that because I had managed to get enough of it like in my windpipe that I actually could not draw a breath for like a good 2 minutes. And it was really scary. Like, it was really scary, but it was also really funny after it was over. Because, like, the second that I started breathing again, you know what you do? You're a little shook up because it was scary. But then, like, 30 seconds after it stopped, I started laughing again because, like, how many bad decisions can you make? How many bad choices can you make in, like, less than 60-second time frame? And the answer is a lot. So that's embarrassing, but it's also really funny.
That is really funny.
So, Lindsay, actually, both of you are so funny that you nearly killed Ashley. That's what happened here.
I'm sorry.
Listen, if that's how I'm supposed to die, like, let it happen.
Went out on a high note.
I mean, if I'm literally gonna die because something was too funny, I mean, all right with that, I guess. But like, it was not a fun experience while it was happening, but now that it's over, it's like a really good freaking story.
That's amazing. I also feel bad for your nostrils. That had to burn like a mother coming out. Oh my gosh.
It did not feel nice at all. And it was like, I mean, it probably had to drink like almost an entire bottle of water until like everything in my throat and stuff got back to normal after that, because it hurt. Like, it was very sore in there for a while.
Oh.
But it's worth it because it's a good story now.
So kids who are listening, don't snort Red Bull. Bad things will happen. You'll be full of regret.
Don't snort Red Bull, and also don't try to put it in your lungs because it does not go there and it will not feel nice.
That's our PSA for this episode.
Red Bull is not high in oxygen content.
Not meant for inhalation.
No, do not recommend. 0 out of 10 stars.
Kind of along that vein, I was listening to that same episode as well when I was out walking my dog Kona. And there were definitely points during the walk and it was a really nice day. So there were other people like out and about walking in my neighborhood as well. And I live in a pretty, I don't want to say remote town, but I live in a very wooded area. There aren't a lot of people that go out in my neighborhood, but there's a decent amount of people that go out. So I'm walking along with Kona, and at one point, some part of the story just hit me really hard, and I started like cackling out loud. And which startled Kona, for one, because she wasn't expecting that. And then 2, I happened to I had stopped as I was laughing, because I, for some reason, was like, I need to stop and laugh instead of walking and laughing, because it looks better when you stop and laugh, I guess. And you look less insane if you just stand there and laugh. That's not true. It looks worse. And I happened to glance over, and there's an elderly couple that are walking towards me. At that point, and they're both looking over at me, and I was like, ah, and I pointed to my ears, I'm listening to something. I'm not insane. Please do not call the local police on me. And they just kind of waved and started walking faster, which is fair.
They're like, yeah, you're sure crazy.
Kona's get me out of here.
Kona's I'm embarrassed.
Oh my God, Mom, how could you?
What's wrong with you? This is why we can't have nice things.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing that you both had that much fun listening to that episode.
It was a
good episode when? I was I re-listen to our episodes all the time because I find us hysterical and I love listening to you guys. I love listening to our stories. So I listen to us all the time. And I was re-listening to the whole catalog, and I came across the North American cryptids, in which I was talking about Mothman's wings. I actually have a correction on myself because I got all cocky and I thought I knew a whole bunch about insects, but I don't know that much about insects. And so my friend, she came up to visit me from Texas, and she's really into it. She collects insects. She's an amateur collector. She's an amateur entomologist. She was going to go into that for her PhD if she didn't get into toxicology. And so I was talking to her about, how moths are so often depicted with their wings straight up. And I'm like, that's stupid. Moths have flat wings, which is exactly what I said in the Mothman episode. Moths, their wings lay flat on their backs, and other butterflies are straight up. She's like, no. I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, most moths have them flat, but some of them have them straight out, and it kind of depends on how they sit. And so I apologize, West Virginia and Mothman. I was mistaken. I made a mistake, and there's a little correction. I apologize. I put a little too much spice into my episode and my pizza, and I messed that one up. Sorry. Sometimes as a chef, you get a big head and you think you know everything, but yeah, you mess things up. So I was wrong. That was my little special thing for this week. Before we close up the restaurant for the night, we're going to read a review from a very satisfied customer. This one is coming from Freddy91. He says, so much fun. Who knew creepy mythology could be so much fun? If you're a weirdo like me, this pineapple pizza is for you. The perfect mix of weird legends, history, stories, and crime. I love learning about legends I've never heard of before. The ladies have great chemistry and it doesn't feel too heavy. Perfect addition to a mostly true crime lineup in my library. Thanks, Freddie. Fun little factoid for our return customers, the people who keep coming back and trying another bite. How we do the little question mark at the end. We actually just wrote that in and accidentally said question mark, and then it just stuck because when we were originally coming up with our closing, we were like, glad that you do. I don't know if this is a good closing. I'll put a question mark at the end of it. And then we just said it and went with it. So we are really glad that you keep coming back. There is no question mark. I hope that you guys enjoyed a delicious meal tonight. I think it's about time to close the restaurant. And I want to thank you for visiting our beautiful pizzeria and enjoying a slice of creepy Indian cryptids. Pineapple Pizza Podcast, sweet and cheesy. Not everyone understands our awesomeness, but we're glad that you do? Question mark?
If you're enjoying the show and you'd like to help support us, check out our TeePublic shop for some amazingly fun and funny merch. Or if you want to do a one-time donation, you can do that on buymeacoffee.com and buy us a fresh slice, because we can never get enough of basically anything, if we're being honest.
If you absolutely love the show and you want to check out some fantastic bonus content, you can become a donor on Patreon and earn all kinds of amazing benefits. We have 3 tiers to accommodate almost any budget. The $3 Mythbuster, the $7 Cryptid Hunter, and the $15 Storyteller. Become a patron today and start enjoying all the perks and extra content right away.
Don't forget, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Pineapp Pizza Pod. That's Pineapp, APP, Pizza Pod. You can also send us questions, comments, and topic ideas at pineappizzapod@gmail.com. Don't forget, APP. That's important.
Thanks for stopping in for some deliciously weird morsels, and just remember, no matter how you slice it,
You're awesome.
And we love you.